very warm welcome to all our listeners. This is Sana Sidhu along with my co-host Ayush Saraf. In all honesty, Ayush, today feels like the most surreal game of name, place, animal thing, where somehow all these different words have come together to bring us to where we are sitting right now.
Wow, this is the first time I'm hearing a name, place, animal thing analogy. Can you please elaborate, Sana?
Of course. Well, the thing is the very podcast that we're recording. The place is the office of a very special guest. The animal is the butterflies that I'm sure are in your stomach too, Ayush. Which brings me to the name that is inciting all of this excitement.
Okay, now I get it. So we have with us today a path-breaking educationist, a forerunner of digital transformation, and of course, an inspiration to all students, the acclaimed trustee of Podar Education, Mr. Raghav Podar. Having studied the education systems of Finland, Singapore, UK, and UAE, he has been heavily vested into upgrading the quality of schooling in India. His training, presentations, and workshops on aligning digital transformation with 21st century skills are keenly sought across schools, conferences, and ministries in Australia, Spain, Malaysia, the UK, UAE, and India.
He personally supports the Beti Bachao Beti Padhao Yojana as well as the Tata Memorial Impact Foundation that focuses on children's cancer treatment for the poor. His contribution to the field of education and society is commendable, and he has been bestowed with many awards for his contributions in the field of education and nation building, including the Bhaskar Pride of India Award, Global Achievers Award by the Indian Ambassador to the UAE, and the Glory of India Award by the Deputy Prime Minister of Thailand in 2016. We would like to extend a very warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you so much. It's my absolute pleasure to be here with both you, Ayush, and you, Sana. I'm looking forward to the lovely chat that we're going to have.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. So, sir, we know that you're a very busy man and there is so much that we want to talk to you about today. So without any further ado, we're going to dive straight into the Q&A round.
Sure, as long as those butterflies have settled in your stomachs.
I think by the 11th question they will.
Yes. Okay, so the first question that we have for you is that the last year has been a teacher for all of us. So what is the biggest lesson that you've learned during the pandemic?
You know, the last 1.5 years, people talk about the pandemic like it's a terrible catastrophe. It's been a tragedy. It's all about adversity. And yes, there has been adversity. There has been tragedy and catastrophe. But adversity has the ability of eliciting talents that lay hidden and dormant inside us during prosperous times. Now, it's often said that every challenge is an opportunity. Yes, it's an opportunity, but only if you make use of it. So my biggest lesson during this pandemic time has been that we are capable of so much more than we ever give ourselves the credit for, or that we thought was possible. For example, let's talk about even the education space. Teachers. I know there were so many teachers who would have been very, very good in a physical traditional learning classroom. But suddenly when they were thrown into the tech space or a virtual classroom, they said, no, this is not for me. You know, I'm not a tech teacher. I can teach very well in a classroom setting. I'm not that tech savvy. And then they were thrown into the deep end of the ocean and they had to swim, and they have performed with flying colors. Teachers who otherwise did not believe it, that they had it within themselves, have now found out new facets of their pedagogy that are taking them to newer limits and unearthing potentials that they did not know existed. So I think this pandemic has been a great learning experience for a lot of our teachers, a lot of us, me included. Sometimes you have to be thrown into the deep end of the pool to learn how to swim. Had we not been thrust into these situations, we would never realize these limits of our own selves. So never waste a good crisis. Talking about a crisis, I actually want to extrapolate this and talk about the Indian education system or even the Asian education system. You know, there's no better time than a crisis that forces us to grow and wakes us up from the slumber of rudimentary pedagogy. We can ill afford another education system that tests students in and prepares students for skills that they won't even require in their 21st century lifetimes. This is the time of transition, where the trends are still forming and evolving and emerging. And it's incumbent upon us, especially the education thought leaders, influencers, who have to shoulder this responsibility to steer this evolution of education in the direction which will truly benefit our 21st century learners the most. Our posterity is going to look back at this time as one of those defining moments that comes once in centuries. And they'll either thank us for the direction in which we took this evolution of education, or curse us for not rising up to the occasion when we had the opportunity. With automation, technology, and now the Industrial Revolution 4.0, we don't need our students to be second-class robots, but instead become first-class humans.
Wow, that was an amazing answer, sir, first of all. I definitely believe, I don't think it's just because we're Podarites, but I definitely think that Podar will be praised in the future on what we've done. And I think on a personal basis too, I'd always built myself in this comfort zone that I wasn't good at technology, but the pandemic forced me, and we had an online Zenith, we had everything online. I think that definitely taught me a lot. What about you, Ayush?
That's true. So I was never, I never had a lot of problems while speaking, while doing things online or using technology, but definitely the pandemic made me explore it to such a great level that I didn't know that there was so much to this.
True.
Absolutely.
Okay, so with that personal opinion, wonderful one, Ayush. Moving on to the next question. If you weren't doing what you do, and wonderfully so, I might add, what do you reckon an alternate profession for you would look like?
That's a really interesting question, Sana. I'm going to let your listeners into a little bit of my childhood life here. And as a child, I wanted to grow up to be an astronaut. I was like, yes, I'll go to space and see the Earth from outer space. It would sound so cool. But I guess that was too far-fetched. And somewhere along the line, as I grew up, I thought I wanted to be an Air Force pilot and then a regular pilot. But I think if you ask me that right now, not right now, actually, maybe about 10, 20 years ago, I would have shifted that to being a cricketer for India. I would have absolutely loved that. I love watching and playing cricket. But if that answer, if I was not a educationist today, maybe a cricket commentator. I think that's the closest to what being a cricketer would be like. I don't think I had the kind of talent to be a cricketer, but maybe a cricket commentator,
Don't say
an
that,
analyst.
sir. You always have the talent. But listening to him speak, I definitely think you do really well as a commentator.
Thank you.
I'm not much of a cricket fan, but I would surely watch the match if you were the one doing the commentary.
How kind of you. Thank you so much.
So, staying on our topic of alternate professions, we think that a chef's hat would really suit you. So, did the pandemic make you a good cook? And do tell us about some of the other hobbies that you picked up during this time.
So did the pandemic make me a good cook? There are two words in that I don't know if I can ascribe to. Whether I could be called a cook or a good cook. I'm not sure either of them. I've tried to try my hand at a few things. If at best I would be an average sous chef, with my wife being the head chef. Yes, we did. My wife and I in the pandemic did try our hand at making a few things, and we made a fantastic yellow dal, which everyone in the family asked more for. So that clearly was something that was a hit. But I wouldn't say I was a cook or a good cook. That would be giving too much credit to myself. But some of the hobbies, it's not a hobby, but I got to spend a lot more time and good quality time with the family, of course, because the kind of time that you have with everyone at home. So there was a lot of good quality time that perhaps would not have happened had the pandemic not happened. But as far as a hobby, I wouldn't call it a hobby because I'm not that studious, or I was never that studious, but I got back to studying. So I got back into your roles. You're a young 12th standard students, 17, 18 years old. I got back to studying. I did a course at Harvard, at the Harvard Business School, an online virtual course, and in fact, enjoyed it a lot. Here is the certificate, actually, I might add.
And to all our listeners out there is definitely a certificate. We can see it.
Yes. So yes, I got back to the studying board because you don't stop learning when you grow old. You grow old when you stop learning.
That is something that I definitely want to live by.
Yeah, and next time, just a request, if you ever drop by school, please bring some of that yellow dal. We'd love to taste it.
With the size of your school, I'd have to bring like big
truckloads of yellow dal.
Yeah.
Moving on to the next question. Binaries are a way of life. with reverberating successes following you everywhere, it is but natural that failures become eclipsed. So we'd like to know about one such setback that had a lasting impact on you, and what was your biggest takeaway from it?
Ayush, people think that you have all these reverberating successes and all. It's not like that. You have far, far, far more failures every day. Every single day you're facing failure and you're going through those things. The question is it really a failure? I don't consider it a failure if you're learning from it. So either you win or you learn. You only fail if you don't choose to learn from it. Some of the most successful people that are considered, whether you talk about Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Barack Obama, Jack Ma, each one of them have faced failure at every step of their lives. You'll have probably heard the story that there was this young gentleman who wanted to just get a job as flipping burgers at one of the burger chains in China. And he applied, and all his job was to do is go and ask people that, would you like fries with that? Can I give you an extra large Coke or whatever it might be? And out of, I think, 18 people who applied, 17 got selected and one got rejected. That man's name is Jack Ma, one of the most successful people of China, at least in terms of business. So I think we give too much credit to people who think that the biggest successes have known that failure is a part of success. Because if you don't know how to fail and get up and stand up and brush yourself up, you're not going to ever succeed. What was my biggest setback and had a lasting impact on me? I'll tell you about maybe 10-15 years ago. I was opening a school, since we're talking on education. I was opening one of my first schools, a new school I was setting up in Gujarat. And I put in all my heart and soul and blood and toil and tears into it. And I remember we'd sit in 42, 43 degrees heat out in the open in a field full of, there were mango trees and banana plants. And I'd be in my suit because I was all like, I have to be in my suit. And we'd look out into the open, this place will be the chemistry lab. And here we'll make the principal's cabin. And this can be the art and dance room, etc., etc. And Ayush, being a big fan of architecture, I would have loved to take you there with me. But my point is that I put in all this time, maybe a year of hard work and toil, and expected that, it would be a good school and everyone would come and everyone would want to be a part of the school. And this was the first ever school that I had opened as myself. And of course I was wet behind the ears. I was a young child, I was in my early 20s. And the entire school in the first year started with 32 students. And I'm not talking about 32 students in one class. I'm talking about the entire school had just 32 students. And I was shattered. I was like, maybe I don't have it in me. Maybe this is not for me. Education's not my thing. I don't know. Maybe what is it for me? I have no idea. And as time went on, you keep persisting, you keep trying. And I'm happy to say today, the school is full. We don't have more space. It's at about 1,500 or 2,000 students because we can't accommodate any more students. And it's not only about the size or the number of students, but it's about what they're achieving. Today, I have kids from that school who are getting back medals and trophies at national level, whether in sports, whether in extracurriculars, whether in academics. So that for me is the biggest setback that I face, but it's also my biggest learning lesson that don't give up. If you can persist, if you can just stay at it, there's nothing in this world that you're going to touch and it turns to gold. Yes, you may be lucky, but you can't rely on luck to get you through. You have to be persistent, dogged, and dedicated and passionate to what your goal is. And there may be a chance you will get that in a short period of time. There may be a chance it may take a long time, but that truly is the learning of that journey that I have achieved that's made me a much stronger and wiser person.
And with that, I think I can safely say to the 20-year-old Mr. Podar, education is definitely your thing, sir.
Thank you.
Wow, I'm in awe of the answer, and as a student, it just feels, a little comforting that everybody goes through failures, and it's not just, like even successful people go through failures. So thank you so much for the answer.
Absolutely. You just need to make it a stepping stone towards your success.
Right. So thank you for that answer, sir. Obviously, you have a list of achievements to your name. You just mentioned the Harvard degree, and you seem like nothing less than a superhero to us. But if you had the chance to acquire any superpower for a day, which one would it be and why?
If you talk about superpowers and superheroes, to me, y'all are the superheroes. The fact that the way y'all handle this gargantuan event called Zenith, I think y'all are really superheroes. I mean, yesterday I was talking to some of your colleagues and they were telling me about how the number of events and the number of judges, and from 55 schools across India, 92 judges from around the world. In fact, not across India, I believe there are also schools participating from outside India, and 92 judges from across the world, and having sponsors and the kind of planning and preparation. Y'all are the real superheroes, and superheroes to all our adult parents who are parents. Y'all are the superheroes of our lives. If I were to have a superpower for a day, I don't know if I'd call it a superpower, but I would say that if I could have the strength or the ability or the capability of ensuring that the kind of education that we provide to, let's say, the urban elite could also be provided to the rest of India. The UNESCO 2021 report tells us that there are 1 lakh schools in India with just one teacher. As per the telecom statistics, they said 25% of rural users have internet, 98% in urban. Or if you talk about the education ministry, they have the UDICE. So the UDICE report, they say that out of 15 lakh schools in India in 2019, less than 12% government schools had internet, and less than 30% government schools had functional computer facilities. And this is not a government school or a private school thing. Let's add private schools also into that. Let's talk about all those 15 lakh schools. Only 22% schools across India had internet, and only 37% schools had functional computer facilities. So my point here is that if I were to have a superpower, it would be to have that equality in educational opportunities that are available to children in Santa Cruz in Mumbai, or sitting in the hinterland of, let's say, Bihar, UP, or any other state of India. The talent, the potential, the abilities of children are no more higher in the urban than they are in the rural.
Agreed.
It's just that the fact that we have to be able to provide them with these opportunities and allow them to shine as much, and that will truly allow our country to be able to improve in a more equitable way. I am not against the fact that there are schools that are doing very well, and they should. We have some fantastic schools in India which are truly world class. Unfortunately, these are mere islands of excellence floating on vast oceans of mediocrity. And that is the change that we need to bring.
That hearing the statistics makes it all too real, right? When I was hearing the numbers, I couldn't believe it, but that's definitely something that we need to take away from this today and realize that there are a lot of things that we need to change. And also, thank you, sir, for calling us superheroes. That meant a lot. Okay, so moving on to our next question. So, if you were to sum up the top 3 indispensable traits of highly successful people in ascending order, what would they be?
I think I've already sort of alluded to that in my previous answers, but I think the number 1 thing will be never give up. There is nobody that can tell you that you have not been successful if you choose not to accept that failure. So if you don't give up, like I spoke about my school in Gujarat that was a failure to start with, you just don't give up and you will achieve success. So the most important thing I would say is just keep at it. Secondly is have passion. Whatever you're doing, do it with passion. If you're not doing it with passion, there's no point in doing it. If you don't give your be all, end all, your heart, soul, your blood, your toil, your tears into it, don't do it. Don't do it because somebody has made you do it, because that will anyways be done in a perfunctory manner. It should be something that doesn't let you sleep at night. It should be something that your heart is pulled towards. And to all the listeners listening, many of you would be in your late teens or early 20s. Do realize that your passions will change. Unfortunately, in India, we have a culture of conformity, which sort of tries to pigeonhole people into, you should be this, you should be an engineer or a doctor. And of course, now it's a lot better than it was, say, 10, 20 years ago, with far more opportunities and far more flexibility in changing your career or wanting to have a different passion. My advice to all the listeners is that stay true to your passion. Of course, I'm not saying change your goalposts all the time, but understand that your passions will change. It's natural. If you have parents who tell you that yesterday you wanted to be a dancer and today you want to be this and tomorrow you want to be that, why don't you ask them? Have they not had changes in what they wanted to be? And where did they finally end up in life? So just be true to your passion. Do what you feel makes you happy, that you love, and be aware that even things that make you happy and that you love, you're going to have those bad days. You're going to have those days that you wake up and you wonder, why am I doing this? And you have to still stick with that. The third thing is, whatever you be, whatever it is you choose to be the best at it. Make sure that you want to be the number one and not just good or very good. You want to be the best at it.
That was really amazing. That your answer actually makes me recall a saying by Ratan Tata, and that is that nothing can destroy iron but its own rust.
True.
So likewise, nothing can destroy a person but its own mindset. So yes.
Wow, I did not come equipped with any quotes, but I completely agree with what you said, Ayush. Okay, so the next question is one that So the next question that we have, sir, is one that we personally are very curious about. Having been a part of the education industry for as long as you have, what is the one thing that you would like to change about it and why?
Sana, we live in a very anachronistic education system. What are most students chasing, especially come December, Jan, Feb, March? Everyone's on this rat race, this holy grail that is being chased of marks. Now, the purpose of school is not exam preparation, which typically measures memorization and regurgitation. The purpose of school is preparing students for the exam called life. Now, one of the sad realities is that in India, education has come to mean passing an exam. And the pandemic has further exposed this hypocrisy. Schools cannot be reduced to merely exam conducting buildings with little value for the life skills and future ready skills that are the true goal. Now, parents care so much about the marks a child scores in their exam but forgets to care whether they leave a mark in their lives or not. Education is not a transactional phenomenon. It isn't about transacting curriculum. The fundamental crux on what good teaching learning practices is based is the human relationship. The human connect a teacher forms with her students. So that most favorite thing of Indian and many Asian education systems that everyone is chasing, marks, tests, scores. Now, what are tests? What are tests meant to be? They're meant to be diagnostic. They're meant to diagnose the strengths and the weaknesses of the child so that the teacher can adjust her lesson delivery accordingly. But in our country, tests have become a way to label students. So let's say you get a 95 or a 99, you're considered a genius. You get this label of a genius on your forehead. And if you get a 75, maybe it's an average or below average these days. And if you get a 40 or below that, and they have these terrible, pathetic terms like duffer and all, who has given anybody the right to label a student on this score, which is measuring what? For a large part, the ability of the child to memorize and regurgitate better. In today's day and age, you already have Google on your fingertips. By the time you and your juniors grow up, you're not going to be auto-prompted with AI and other technologies with the information that you will need to complete your next task. And yet here we are as an education system sitting and measuring your ability to memorize and regurgitate. In the 21st century, the world economy will not reward you for how much you know, but for what you can do with what you know. Not for the amount of knowledge that you have, but for how you apply the knowledge that you have.
I find it so interesting that you spoke about having a connect with teachers, and it's so sweet that we have two of our teachers sitting behind us right now. And they throughout when we were coming here, we both were very nervous, and we were like asking them what to do, how do we answer, what if we don't know what to say. They're like, calm down, it's okay, everything will be fine. Sir is very calm, very chill.
I have to let you in on a little secret, since I can see them behind your backs. I think they are more nervous right now than you all are.
From the extremely invigorating conversation that we've had so far, it's clear that you're a man of many charms. So could you please tell us about two of your hidden talents?
How can I speak about my talents? But I don't think they're talents, and I don't think, they are hidden. That's true. One is I like to play the piano. I love to play the piano. I cannot read a word of music, so I play by the ear. I've watched my dad play, and just by listening to him, I picked up the piano. No formal training, absolutely, just by hearing I play the piano. And the other thing is I'm a linguophile. I would not necessarily say that's a talent, but it's something that I love. I love languages. So I love to understand the construct and deconstruct of languages and how they're formed. I've learned Spanish amongst other languages, and I wish I could continue learning a lot more languages. Although that being said, at my age, it's a lot more difficult to learn a language than it is, say, for a child who is under the age of 8, because simply the learning centers of the brain, or more specifically the Broca's area, the language center of the brain, is developing a lot faster. So for those of you who are listening, who are parents to children who are 8 years and younger, make sure you put your child or make your child learn other languages besides the English and the Hindi and your regional language. Make sure you get them to learn these languages. They're very, very helpful in the cognitive development of the child's brain.
So when you spoke about the piano, is it like if you hear a note, you can replicate that and play it?
If I practice enough, yes. It's not that quick. It takes time. But yeah, there are quite a few songs that plonking around on the piano, it can be quite irritating for other people who are just having to sit and listen. But if I keep at it for about an hour, 2 hours, yes, I will be able to come up with the full tune.
That's amazing. What were you saying? You don't have talents? That's amazing. Siddharth here plays the guitar. Maybe you guys can have like a duet sometime. We can record that too.
Absolutely, would love that.
Speaking about languages, in school, so I've learned French, and thanks to Podar that I got the opportunity to do that, and I must admit it is a mesmerizing language. And yes.
Learn Spanish also next time. You can talk to sir.
And it's very interesting though, because Spanish and French are very similar languages, but their pronunciations are completely different. So one of the main tenets of Spanish is you pronounce exactly how it's spelled, how it's written. So for example, my name would be pronounced Raghav because the R's are R. But in French, it would be more like Raghav. So the R is very different, or the pronunciations are very different. So it's beautiful. Again, as I said, I'm a linguophile and I love languages. It's amazing how spelling-wise or reading-wise, both Spanish and French will not sound that different. But if you're talking, they'll sound completely different. You won't be able to understand a word of French if you're a Spanish speaker.
Now I definitely want to learn Spanish.
I'm going to stick to Hindi. Okay, so moving on to our next question. A very simple question. What is the favorite part about your profession?
Well, interacting with students. The difference that I can make in the lives of so many children, so many families, and the future of our country. There's so many things about the profession that I think no other profession can give you ever. The kind of fulfillment I can see two teachers, educationists sitting behind you, and I think the biggest success for them is to see an Ayush or a Sana who might have joined their classes or might have joined their school as little kids who were 5 and 7 and 8 years old, and today seeing them in these brilliant crisp suits sitting in front of the trustee's office, grilling him with these interview questions like he's on a particular TV show that I won't name. No, my point is the growth of the students, to see that is far greater than the fulfillment you can get, the satisfaction that you can get is far greater than any other job or profession can ever give you. So I think that's the thing that I love the most about my profession, about education, that difference that you can make. I remember I was at an airport, this is way before the pandemic, and a child came up to me from, I don't know if it was Leelavati Bai or one of the schools in Bombay, and she said, sir. I said, yes, who's this? She said, Raghav sir. I said, yeah, of course. And you are? Sir, I'm the student who was there on the annual day. I was the one performing, and I was like, oh wow, how nice, how good to see you, and I'm so sorry I didn't recognize. And she's like, sir, please, can I get a selfie with you? And it made me feel so nice. I'm like, listen, I'm no one. Of course, can I get a selfie with you? There's going to be a time in 15 or 20 years that I'm going to ask you for a selfie, I told her. Or I know there was a kid in our jumbo kids, so I'm talking about preschool. And this is one of the schools in Gujarat. And the headmistress mentioned to me that, so you know what these kids do after they go home? Like play games, run around, play football. They were twin brothers. And they probably fight a little bit or whatever it is. And they said, no sir, they wear these little suits, blazers, and they play Raghav sir.
Oh my god.
And I'm like, wait, what? What is Raghav sir? What does that even mean? And they're like, no sir, they come into a classroom and then they address the students like how you enter their classrooms and address their students. And I was floored. And I thought, wow, that's really, really amazing. And then later I found out that one of them was named Raghav. The mother named the child after me.
Oh my god.
So I think there is nothing beyond being an educationist. There's no profession that can match up to it. I get goosebumps even when I say that and hear that now. So to all the listeners, get into education, make a difference in the lives of the future of this country. There is nothing better than that.
So you said that your favorite part about your profession is interacting with students. So I hope we'll see you in classrooms in the next year.
I would love that. I truly love that, and I love experiences like this. The head office cabin is not really where my creativity or my best self comes out. It's definitely inside the classrooms with students.
That's
We'd
great.
love to see that.
Yes,
That would be amazing.
Unfortunately, we won't be able to experience your teaching, but that is also something that I'll put on my bucket list. Okay, so moving on to our next question. Could you please tell us about the singular most important lesson that you've learned during your experiential journey?
You know, Ayush, whether you believe you can or you can't, you're probably going to be right. I'll ask you this question now, both to Ayush and Sana. I'm putting y'all on the spot. What do you live in?
Live in?
Yeah, what do you live in? Where do you live? What do you live in?
In a house?
In a house, it may be an apartment, a duplex, a bungalow, or how big is this place where you live in? 1,000 square feet, 5,000 square feet, 10,000 square feet maybe.
I'd have to call my dad for that. Average Mumbai house, I'd say.
Okay.
Yes.
I would say you don't live in an apartment or a duplex or a bungalow, or you don't live in 1,000, 5,000, 6,000, whatever 1,000 square feet apartment. You live in a 6-inch space, that's it, between your ears, which is yet one that is an infinite space, because the infinite capabilities lies between that 6-inch space between your ears. So your mind, it's all about self-belief. That's the most important lesson that I have learned, is if you believe you can do it, there is nobody and no power that can stop you from doing it. And if you believe you can't, well, probably you can't. It's all about self-belief. Yeah.
That was so beautifully put. Every time I feel down, I'm going to listen to that clip. I'll go back to this podcast and listen to this clip to feel motivated. Thank you, sir. And now moving on to our last question. These past 2 years have been extremely turbulent for everyone, especially students. A lot of us are now at that stage where we have to make very crucial decisions pertaining to our futures. Hence, what is the one piece of advice you wish you had known when you were younger?
Probably back yourself, be yourself. Don't try to be anything but what you are and try to be that perfectly. Don't try to live into somebody else's shoes or somebody else's idea of what you should be like. The best Ayush decides that. The best Sana will decide that. So be the best version of yourself without worrying too much about what society or the neighborhood auntie thinks that you should be like, or Sharma ji ka beta is getting XYZ. It doesn't matter. Don't live for any of that. I'll tell you about a very nice piece of advice that I did get when I was younger. And this is when I was probably around your age. I must have been in the 9th, 10th or 11th, 12th standard. And one of my dad's friends, he was the head of a big multinational company, and he had come over for dinner. And he was talking about, he was just saying, you know, Raghav, whatever you want to be in life, whatever it is, it doesn't matter whether you want to be a chef, whether you want to be anything, whatever it is, be the best at it. Don't be second best, don't be third best. Whatever you're going to do, give it your all. And if you're second best in something, you're not good enough, you're failing. If you want to be something that is not considered traditionally the best profession, I'm talking about 25, 30 years back, say, nobody would have imagined being a chef. There wasn't a thing like chef as a profession at that point of time. Today, of course, now chefs are cool and they have good job opportunities and a lot of availability of appreciation for being a chef. But I'm saying 20 years back, maybe it wasn't there. And he gave me that example in that context that even if you're the best chef in the world or the best chef in India, that's good enough. So the advice that I want to give to the listeners is that whatever you be, whatever you choose to be, you have to be the best at it.
I think that's something that is very relevant today. I think a lot of people doubt themselves. And it doesn't come down to doubting yourself. It comes down to believing that you can be the best. So I think thank you so much for that, sir.
Thank you for your candor, sir. As students, we've always known you as the chairperson and the trustee of Podar Education. So it was truly a delight to be able to view the world from your perspective and to know you on a deeper level.
Before we sadly have to end our conversation for today, we have a very short rapid fire round for you. The rules are very simple. We will give you a couple of words and you will have to tell us the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear them. So, can we begin?
No, I want to see my hamper first.
Wait, I thought we were not naming any shows here. That gives it away.
I didn't name the show.
So,
go ahead.
First word for today is zenith.
Wow. Heuristic. Ooh. Now, if you all are wondering what heuristic means, it means it's a kind of learning. It's the highest form of learning that can occur in anybody, in a human. And it's self-directed, self-owned, self-led, self-initiated learning. And zenith is exactly that, because you all are at the center of this entire learning ability, the skill development that's happening. That's why I would say zenith is heuristic.
Not tooting my own horn, but I completely agree. Okay, next up we have students.
Teachers.
Ooh.
Because you learn so much from students. I mean, in our adult lives, we end up interacting with other adults and get the same kinds of thoughts, but it's the students who open up your mind to creativity, to ideas that you did not ever think possible. Zenith being such a good example. I mean, the kind of level that you'll have taken it to, and even though it was a pandemic and even virtually you'll have even grown it in that sense. So students are teachers.
Wow. Moving on to the next one. What is the best part about your school life?
The best part about my school life was probably the relationships, the connect, the friends, the memories, and of course the back garden. We used to have a garden behind our school building, and that is where I think the best moments of my life were. I'm not saying I wasn't a studious kid. I was a decent academically above average kid, but nothing like the life skills you learn in the back garden or in the canteen or just outside school or all of those. As I said, schools are not mere buildings just for exam preparation and exam passing. They're preparing you for the exam called life.
I definitely agree with the canteen part. Ayush will do. He's the biggest foodie ever. Okay, and coming up next, the word is passion.
The basis of anything you need for anything in life, if you want to do something in life, you have to have passion. I think that is the fundamental building block of what will help you achieve your goal.
Yeah, you mentioned that in your top 3 qualities too.
Absolutely.
Okay, moving on to the last one, not the least, LPHS.
So LPHS is of course Leelavati by Podar High School, and I must be honest, to me Leelavati by Podar first of all is my great grandmother. So the first thing that comes to my mind is my great grandmother when I think of Leelavati by Podar. But when I talk about LPHS, the school itself, I would say the mover of mountains. You all move mountains beyond anyone's imagination. Of course, the entire teaching fraternity that's there behind you all, rock solid, to be there, to be your scaffolding. But it's you students who are the spotlight, the ones who have to fly. The teachers, the educators, the management are just the wind beneath your wings for you all to soar higher and higher and to continue moving the mountains that you have done so wonderfully. All the best.
Thank you so much, sir. And with that heartwarming response, this episode of Zencast comes to an end. Once again, we would like to thank you, sir, for sparing some of your very precious time and providing us with this experience of a lifetime. I believe that I speak for the majority when I say that your words have touched, inspired, and helped shape a lot of young minds today. We look forward to seeing you once again in Zenith.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure. All the best, dear students. Keep excelling and keep inspiring.
Thank you, sir. Sayonara to all our listeners. Thank you for tuning in.